But here's the thing as well. Like the one thing I will agree with you, Dora, is that the optics, I think, of like essentially taking Overwatch League behind the woodshed after everything is like terrible. So yes, I think what this is a prelude to is essentially scaling it down to be more in line with products they're never going to get rid of, like, for example, StarCraft 2, right? And there will be tournaments. There'll still be one at BlizzCon. I think what they're saying when they say we're not getting rid of tournaments 100% is they mean they'll run one or two, or maybe even potentially now, because back when they started, again, completely fucking everything up because of their hubris, they basically they did say to tournament organizers, you could run an Overwatch tournament, but you have to agree to all of these clauses, and there was some outrageous ones in there. I saw the contract that was sent out, and it was stuff like, if you ever create like a statistical model on screen, you're not allowed to use those stats. Only we can display stats on our broadcasts. We must have 2 Activision Blizzard employees in the production truck at all times who has complete veto over what goes out. And it was like all this mad shit you'd have to agree to.
See, that's that lack of trust that I was talking about,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was completely ridiculous. But anyway, what I think will happen is they'll scale it down, and you'll still have Overwatch in some form for sure. But the point is, that is an abject failure when this was meant to be, and they have used language like this in press releases, the pioneering mainstream esports league, global esports league. And it is completely failed to deliver on that promise.
But here's the thing. Like, I do think at 40, 50K viewers, you can create a very sustainable esport. Like, the viewership is very stable. Like, it definitely has a bunch of fans that enjoy the product. It probably won't go down, I would say, in viewership, or not by significantly. And it has an upside of going way up, depending on what happens with Overwatch 2 and what happens when homestands return, like live events after the pandemic.
Homestands aren't returning. I mean, if I was a betting man, I would say homestands are not going to return.
They will call them homestands, not in the way that was planned, right? Not in the home away game, but homestands in the context in which it was used in 2019 will return, and early 2020 will return. And the thing about it is that I would rather have this happen purely as an esports industry person, because the alternative was that it was going straight off the cliff. And do we want another CGS scenario where it just crashes the entire industry for years? Like, I would much rather have this eventuality occur and a return to sustainability and potential profitability than them. Like, because we saw where Doe and I saw where this was going, and it was scary. Like, it was, I'm very glad they continued to like reel it back in, make the logical decisions. The team owners were making their opinions known because they have very good insight across the entire esports industry, the endemic ones. And so it has in many ways prevented the greater catastrophe from occurring.
By the way, I can corroborate on what he's saying, because it's actually a fact that you can have a sustainable game with 40,000 viewers. You just have to pay. You have to go back in time 10 years, pay everyone $1,000 a month. Everyone just has like mouse sponsors and that, and you just don't expect too much prize money. If you do that, you can do it tomorrow, boys. I can fix the Overwatch League tomorrow. It's just it'll become Thorin's backyard fucking Overwatch League. So
it'll be CZW.
Exactly.
I think they're going to have to scale it way back, and I think that's at least in the short term the direction of where it's going, while they evaluate what the plan is for Overwatch 2. And until we have more information about the competitive plans for Overwatch 2 and not just the PvE plans, because me as a gamer, I'm actually very excited to play Overwatch 2 from what I've seen so far. I want to play that game. Now, is that going to translate into me wanting to see more of the professional scene? I don't know yet, because I don't have enough information. But clearly that's going to be on their minds, right? And the developers have always been very involved with Overwatch League, even if I think that, I mean, objectively, they prioritize the casual experience, which is a good business decision for them. It was the best business decision they could make. It just wasn't the best decision for the Overwatch League in particular. So I actually view what is going on in terms of, I mean, it sucks to say these people getting laid off is a positive result, but I think it is for the esports industry and for the sustainability of Overwatch. It is positive. And I think that the direction that I've seen in terms of changes of leadership, the people who are in control of the league now, I feel way better about Overwatch League than I did at the end of 2019.
So here's a question for everyone. And it might be a good way to sort of generate the final debate that ties it all together. So for me, right, in 2016, I was on record as having said I want the Overwatch League to succeed, even though I despise many of the people involved in it, the ethos behind it, and certainly the fan base who just essentially morons that know nothing about esports who just want to jerk off to feet pics. So, but it must succeed despite all of those
I love the
things being
trajectory
true.
of that sentence, by the way. That was,
Anyway,
that was fun.
in 2021, I don't think it needs to succeed anymore. I've talked to a lot of owners and a lot of investors and a lot of esports minds that can now see the difference between Overwatch League representing all of esports and esports as a multi-layered, multifaceted ecosystem, and Overwatch League being an aberration within that. So I actually think if it completely falls on its arse, I don't think the esports industry is going to be sort of harmed in that. In fact, you know, in any real meaningful sense, like I think it would have been at 2016, where we had multiple investments occurring all at once, and it looked like it was all part of the same plan. So what do you guys think about that? Do we need to still pull for the Overwatch League?
I think you know, maybe that does end up being the legacy for the league in that it does finally separate esports into different things, like you're saying, and it's not just esports as a whole. It's this game, it's that game, it's industries around games rather than the entire industry overall. You know, maybe that ends up being the place for it. And you know, more than anything, you know, we got into this, Monty and I, obviously, because we believed in the concept of what it was trying to do, and we thought it was really cool, and we wanted it to work out, and we knew it could be great for the industry if it worked out. Was it a massive chance to take? Yeah, for sure. And it might not end up working out. But you know, at the end of the day, I don't want the league to fail, but at the very least, I want to make sure that everything is being done so that if it does as little harm as possible, or at least provides, like you're saying, a good cautionary example of how things should be done that will then later benefit the industry. So that could be it. I hope it succeeds. I've kind of always been positive about it, despite being negative about. I try to keep my negativity about the individuals that cause negative things to happen, rather than the concept that I believed in the first place, and I still believe it. You know. So, but yeah, that might be the case. You know, who knows? We'll see. I guess time will tell. You know, we'll meet back in 2 years and we'll find out.
I think that's optimistic if you think we're talking about the Overwatch League in 2 years. Well, no, we might be talking about the sad press release. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, I think that when we think about Overwatch League, it's obviously like the way the fans want to portray, like, not fans, the way the anti-fans want to portray it is like, haha, look at this thing that has shifted and has changed expectations, and it was kind of ridiculous to start with, which we've all touched on in this podcast. But I think you also have to really look at what it did do for the broader industry, which is that, like it or not, it did bring a lot more professional sports teams. It brought enormous investment attention, which has benefited other esports directly, because these investors who were investing for teams in Overwatch League, some of them didn't invest in Overwatch League, right? And so, but they did pay attention to esports after that point and make their investments elsewhere into other teams and other games, which it was helpful for the industry. Or they invested into orgs that then branched out into other games, right? Or had all existing stakes in other games and kind of fortified their positions. One thing that Overwatch League has always done extremely well is sell sponsorships. And I think that we have seen a kind of chain reaction of one of the big problems prior to Overwatch League was getting non-endemic sponsors into the industry. And what tends to happen in sponsorship is that when you have one major player, like a car manufacturer like Toyota, enter the sponsorship space, what happens is all of their competitors also enter the space and start spending money, because they're trying to compete in that market now, and they have FOMO, right? And so we have seen a significant uptick in non-endemic sponsorship interest as a result of Activision Blizzard's pull and their PR splash that they made in the space. And so even though on an Overwatch League level, perhaps those sponsorships are down, the sponsors remain, right? Like Toyota is still here, even though they don't sponsor Overwatch League anymore. So there has been positive stuff. And this isn't like the worst case scenario. To answer your question, Richard, I think that if Overwatch League were to quietly retire now, I don't think it would do damage to the industry because they avoided the Thelma and Louise driving over the cliff. And so, like it really.
That's how I always thought me and Thorin were going to go out of esports, actually. So that's a wonderful analogy. Yeah.